morning, Richard, and good morning, Richard Lenton as well. I'm in Boston Spa, which is just south of Wetherby, and it might be dull and misty over in Leeds, which is only about 15 miles away. But here, I'm having some problems seeing my screen because the sun is shining on it. The sun always shines on the righteous, you know, Richard. But thank you very much. Good morning and welcome to, this is the first of the interview webinars that we're going to be doing. We're going to be having a couple of them every month with people who have something interesting to talk about. And what we're doing this morning is Reservist Day, which is this Thursday. So we wanted to make sure that you'd got some information about Reservist Day and some of the issues of being a reservist and the employer of a reservist. So asked Major Richard Lenton, who is, I will let Richard explain what it is that he does within the armed forces. But just to say, if you don't know me, I've got a little bit of an explanation of what I do. That is what I look like, that image there. I work for a company called Abacida. I've been in HR since 1981. I've just got my certificate from the CIPD for 30 years of membership. I started my career in Yorkshire at the Yorkshire Regional Health Authority, the building that's now the Cedar Court Hotel in Harrogate, and did all my professional qualifications, went off around the world, came back and just finished 6 years as the chairman of the North Yorkshire branch, and I'm very pleased to see Sue Porter has joined us this morning, who's the lady who's taken over from me, and I work for Abacida. And we got involved with all sorts of various different things that you can see there. If you need to know anything more about me, then you can have a look at the Abacida website. But the gentleman who's important this morning is Richard Lenton, and this is a picture of Richard. Richard, good morning.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome. I'm speaking to you from York. It's a beautiful day here. The weather is clear blue skies, and we're just waiting for the Virgin balloon to take off from the racecourse as I look from my window.
Cool. Good stuff.
Would you like me to do a quick brief on my history?
Well, I've been showing people the slide whilst you've been dealing with the technical issues and explained you're a Regional Employer Engagement Director. If you could just give us a summary of what that involves, then that would be great.
Okay, I'll give you a quick summary. I am one of 13 regional directors who cover the UK. We are responsible for areas. Mine is Yorkshire and Humber and North Lincolnshire. And we are responsible for liaising with regional directors, managing directors, heads of companies, CEOs and chief executives to raise the awareness and the support to employers on how they can engage better with the MOD and how we can make sure that when you engage with us financially or in whichever way you require, can form a partnership with the MOD and we help the transition better.
Right. So let's explore those sort of more the detail of your type of work then. So what we're going to do today is look at what the Armed Forces Covenant is, because that, my understanding, that forms the basis of the relationship between the nation, our armed forces, and employers and our armed forces. So we're going to look at who that supports, what support is provided for reservists and employers, what is the difference about military service and civilian employment, because I think that, from my experience of employing people as they come out of the military, that can be where the problems lie, and look at the transfer from military service to civilian employment and why it succeeds or fails, and then how, as employers, we can make the Armed Forces Covenant work for our own individual organisation. And that's where you're talking about the partnership, isn't it, Richard?
It is indeed, yes.
Right. Okay. So let's have a look at the Armed Forces Covenant, because there's been a lot of coverage of it in the media at various different points, but I'm not quite sure that people understand really what it involves and what it means. So, the Armed Forces Covenant. What is it?
The Armed Forces Covenant was quite new. We've always had supportive employers certifications and recognition. Mm-hmm. But it was decided by the government that it should be more formalised, an actual written contract as such between employers and ourselves. So we give our commitment to support the employers, and the employers sort of say, well, this is our commitment back to you, the reservists and the armed forces. And the armed forces community And it's basically just making sure that they're not disadvantaged in any way. And they have certain needs, and it's the companies recognising those needs that a service person or a reservist type employee needs. And it actually shows a commitment from the company saying, we are Armed Forces friendly.
Right. Okay. So who's covered by the Armed Forces Covenant?
Well, service leavers in particular are covered because they're the individuals who've done a full career or a short career with the military, and they're now coming out with their skills into the working environment, and they're looking for employment, and it will be their first time possibly with a job environment outside of the military. The others that are in the covenant are dependents and people who are service dependents and dependents of reservists, because they have certain needs that, individuals will come with their own special needs, and it's that understanding of, where in the workplace that you understand their needs too.
So the partners and children of service people are also covered by the covenant?
They are indeed, yes, for assistance where they need to go into education, sometimes with dependents of regular service personnel. Every 2.5 years they move home, and it could be move country, or coming back from abroad into the UK. And so they need that understanding that they're resettling again, and they've probably been through quite a lot of turmoil. Sometimes the youngsters, the older they get, the more turmoil they've been through every 2.5 years. So they need support too. We also have reservists. These are your employees that we share with you, and reservists have quite a unique feature within our relationship, because these are individuals that are actually trying to develop themselves by looking at different opportunities, and it could be that they've chosen the reserves to add something that we can offer as well as what the employer is offering to develop their careers further. We also have in there veterans. These veterans are anyone who's had anything more than 1 hour's service in the military. So they could have just done 1 day and left, and as far as we're concerned, they're classed as a veteran. So it could be someone who is 19 years old right the way through to what everyone considers are the remainder of our World War II veterans who march on Remembrance Parade past the cenotaph as everyone remembers them. But the veteran for us is anyone who's done any form of service with the armed forces. We also have a category of cadets and cadet instructors. Young cadets go through a lot of training and development. They are just a uniformed youth organisation, but they are sponsored. We invest a lot of money into young people, doing City and Guilds. We also do BTECs. We also do courses on hands-on. They do a lot of managerial leadership skills, etc. They're fantastic young people who are going forward to university and into apprenticeships. They're very reliable, good young individuals. Also, the instructors, they do this voluntary. They go twice a week on an evenings to instruct these young people, and they go away every other weekend with them, and they do it on a voluntary basis. And they are just youth leaders that wear uniform and receive military-type instruction for in-the-field activities that give the cadets that difference of going off doing fieldcraft and military activities. Then we have the last category, which are our injured service leavers and individuals. So those are those that have given the ultimate commitment and they have been injured while in service.
Which are the group of people that we associate with the covenant rather than the other groups of people that you've mentioned. I think that we think about the covenant in terms of those people that have been injured rather than all the other groups of people that you've already mentioned there.
Sure.
It's, right. Okay. So what sort of support do these reservists get when they're being reservists and employees as well? What sort of support can we expect a reservist who's an employee to get from the armed forces?
Well, reservists receive a lot of support from the military, particularly they're doing their work, their activities, and they're giving up their time and coming along on an evenings and weekends and learning the military side of things, which is almost a full second career that they're undertaking. And they have that commitment to support the regulars when they go on mobilisation, and that can be UK operations, which is working on patching up flood areas or areas of disaster, right the way through to armed conflict and supporting our forces out there in Afghanistan and such places.
What happens when they've finished their period of time in somewhere like Afghanistan, for example? What happens then?
Okay. Well, we have a set procedure that we try to put these individuals through, because we know reservists are on their way back into the working environment. And so once they come out of active combat, they are all, with the reservists, the regulars, all come out and they go down to what is called a decompression phase, and they go to Cyprus. Cyprus is one of these places that we use, which is a nice environment. They have lots of barbecues and an opportunity to do some chilling out activities. And while they're all decompressing and getting issues resolved by talking about it with people who are there with them, who understand what they've been through, we also have specialists in there from our medical services, chatting with them and observing them and just seeing if they're genuinely okay. Because we have a lot of issues where you have, during the demobilisation, it could be a physical injury, which is easy to see, but it could be psychological as well. And so we have a support mechanism in there that actually supports them and gets in there. And a lot of the military now, they look at the psychological things that they've been through exactly the same as if they'd lost a leg or had a broken leg or a physical injury. They realise that they need to speak to someone who is a specialist and to sort it all out, get it out of their system and get better. And so this need is identified very, very quickly, and it's no longer as it was maybe looking back at the Falklands and conflicts before then, where people would just have a few beers and then not talk about it anymore. And we see these issues now, all these years later, actually boiling up as they get older, coming to the surface and giving them issues in later life that we're having to then go back and help them with. But we also have post-operational leave when they've demobilised and gone through their decompression. And usually they take all their holiday all in one, and it could be anything up to 1 month of holidaying. And it's an opportunity for them to get back into normal life, get back into the routine with the family. I think one of the things when I've been on operations, it's having been away for 6-7 months from the family, it's an opportunity to rebond. My wife always used to say to me that it was like having a single person come back into her family. She'd got everything organised, and then back I'd come and disrupt the whole pattern and everything. All the children would be hyper, and we'd all be charging around. So it's a chance for them to maybe go on holiday, and this is where understanding dependence of people who are in mobilisation, that support of giving the employee might be someone that you employ, someone who is a spouse of a reservist or a service leaver or a leaver. And
so we should
you
be
need
planning
to be aware that
holidays
they may
for that
need to
person.
take some time off and go away on holiday for that period when they've returned. So there is a lot of post-operational leave that they take. For our reservists, they can and often are pressured sometimes, which is one of the things that can cause problems, to return to work. They're seen walking around back in their communities, and their employees and colleagues are going, hang on a minute, I thought you were in operations. Why are you not back at work then? And they don't understand fully that, they haven't been taking their leave gradually over a period. They're taking it all at the end, when they've finished, to settle back into, coming back into the community. So when you consider that they may have been in a war zone, they've had to be very careful where they can and can't walk, they're having to readjust their mindset back into the community so that they get their heads around being in a safe environment again, and the issues around that.
Yep. Okay. So the preparation that people have for returning back into the workplace, you've already mentioned things about the training that people get and the qualifications, but the preparation for going back into the work is like the training.
There is. We offer additional training. Some employers, because they've been out of the workplace, it could be that there are service sector qualifications and renewals of training packages that they have to have completed to keep them current and up to date with the role that they do back in the workplace. And if we're aware of this and we have this communicated to us quickly, we are quite prepared to pay for that training to get them back to the workplace, up to speed, ready to come into the workplace and doing that. And that could be taken as part of that 1 month training package, or it could be added in there so that it's added to it, and we'll pay for the costs of that.
Right.
We also have.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in more detail and a little bit later on, I think. But I think one of the other things that you mentioned as well is this employer support for partners. The fact that somebody is going to have somebody coming back from a military service and they're going to be at home for a month, this readjustment period, you also need to accept the fact that the wife, the husband, the spouse, the partner, girlfriend, boyfriend, and even parents and children as well are also going to have to go through a period of readjustment as well. So one of the things employers need to be aware of is that support for a partner who may be a normal, ordinary 5-day-a-week employee, but you have this person who's been a reservist. And I'm wondering how many employers actually know whether their employees have partners or significant others who are reservists as well. It's one of the issues we need to look at, perhaps. But when we talk about reservists, there's the other side of the coin. What sort of support do the employers get?
Well, we make sure that financially we support employers to support them. And what we try to do is, when we mobilise them, we send out an information pack, and the employer is able then, through the HR department or whoever is the point of contact, to actually state, do you need financial support? Will you be replacing this person? And you could find that it's costing you as a company, because the last thing we want to do is burden you financially by having a reservist or releasing a reservist, and it could affect your bottom line. So you may have to, during the period of 12 months that they could be away, have to have someone else in place. And so what we do is we have a scheme of packages that are in there, and we will pay all your agency fees. So if you replace them with someone coming in to do that 12-month on a temporary contract, and it's going to cost you more money, we will pay all your costs to search and find that right person that you need to stand in and look after the role. Now, we understand that sometimes these short-term contracts, these people expect something in remuneration. So as you will be saving on the salary, anything above what you would have paid that individual in salary, we will pay you up to £110 a day above that reservist salary. So there's a lot of reimbursement
of the various different costs that are associated with employing somebody who's a temporary employee. So like it was put there, there's like you're going to pay the agency fees to bring somebody in, and pay the difference between the salary and the daily rate for that professional interim or the temporary worker. And you're also going to give us £550 for every period of Monday to Friday, which is very generous. Thank you very much. But there's the impact. That sounds great. And if you're a big employer, then all the sorts of things can work very well. But North Yorkshire, our area is full of smaller employers. Is there any support for smaller employers? Well,
if you're less than 250 employees, the government has decided that you're taking a bigger hit as a company. The big corporate blue chip companies with large staffings can just absorb it. But if you're a smaller company, then the government are prepared to give you £500 per month for releasing that reservist as a tax-free. Thank you very much. We understand and appreciate the burden that you're accepting and taking on board. So
you're very generous, Richard. It's very nice. £500 per month. Thank you very much. Thank you. But sometimes the support that you need isn't actually financial. It isn't, the money isn't the whole sort of thing about it. What else can you offer an employer?
Well,
that isn't money.
Well, we have the support of myself. I'm happy to come along and sit with companies and talk things through with them and help them and guide them. But we also have in every regiment a regimental support officer. Now, these regimental support officers are specifically there to engage directly with the employers, and their role is to go in. If you need them, you can call upon them, and they give you the nitty-gritties. They're there like to be your contact on a day-to-day basis. And it could be throughout the entire support of the mobilisation. They're there if you needed to get in touch with someone that they've maybe locked something up and they've put the keys somewhere and you don't know where they are and they've disappeared off to an operation. You can speak to that support officer who can make that phone call very quickly, find out what's happening. They're there to support on a day-to-day basis and give you best advice, and that's all it is. It's just best advice that you need, or make sure that you are signposted to the right person that can deal with what you're dealing with. If that's not working, then obviously I'm a direct contact with my other 12 colleagues, and if we don't know who it is, then they're not there to be contacted.
Okay, we've just had a question come in from Lynn in Dundee asking, is the £550 per Monday to Friday in addition to the £110 per day? And I think that is true. It's additional, isn't it?
I think that's
no.
The £110
calculation.
What it works out on a Monday to Friday, because we don't pay you 7 days a week, we pay you the 5 working days. So 5 days times £110 works out at £550 for Monday to Friday.
Okay, so it's not additional.
When we say £110 a day, it's not 7 days a week, it's only 5 days a week.
And I think that
could be where confusion comes in. It's all like saying, no, where's my other £220 from Saturday and Sunday?
It doesn't.
If they're shift workers, it's working days, not leave days.
Okay. All right, working days. So when you talk about working days, how often could somebody be in contact with you because you need to provide them support? How often can somebody be called up as a reservist?
Once they've been called up, we guarantee that we will not call them up again for 5 years. That doesn't mean to say that we can't call them up. What we would do is, if in that 5 years, once you've released them once, within that 5 years, if they were needed again, we would, in writing, come to you as an employer and ask your permission to mobilise them. We wouldn't do it without your direct consent.
Okay. All right. So, given the consent, we can then also appeal against the mobilisation, is what you're saying. If you want if you want one of our employees, we can say, well, actually, it's rather inconvenient now. Could you take them in a couple of months' time? Or they're a key part of the workforce, and they're the only person that can do the job, and it's going to take longer to find a replacement.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Right. So,
and in any mobilisation, there is that opportunity, and this is what is also asked. Besides, do you need any financial support? Is there a requirement that you will be claiming financial support from us? They also say, you can appeal against this. This could be a bad time for a company. If you're just going through a phase, perhaps a good example would be, I had a company that just completed 2 years training with their employee to get the gold standard for Microsoft, and it was a major part of their business development and business was hanging on.
If you've got somebody with the skills, then it's part of the business plan.
It was just the wrong time for them. They would have to take another 2 years to train someone else up if we mobilise that individual. And so they put in a dispensation. They spoke to me. I made some phone calls behind the scenes for them, and we were able to save off that mobilisation for them for 2 years.
All right.
If they needed to train someone else so that they could cover that.
That is great. We're because of the problems that we had at the beginning, we're going to have to speed up, for want of a better word. Otherwise, people have other things that they need to be going off and doing. But one of the differences, I think, or one of the challenges that people face when they're leaving military service and going into employment is that there's a big shift. It's not just another job. In military service and all this sort of stuff. I wondered if you could just explain, because I've employed people who are ex-military and sort of seen some of the issues, and we've talked about them, but what are the issues that you sort of see as the big differences between military service and civilian employment that employers need to be aware of?
Service leavers, people who've been in military service, it's not just a job. This is an entire lifestyle to them. This is forces family. These people live 24/7. That is what they are paid while they're in military service. They work together. They live together. They go drinking together. It is a whole package that they have. When in a civilian environment, you come from home where you've got your home environment, your home friends who you connect with. You come to work and you have your work friends and colleagues, and then after the working day, you go back into your family life.
Yeah. In the forces, it's the same group. There's no differential between the two sides of it. It's the same group. So the people that you're working with are the people that you're living alongside.
Absolutely.
Wives, families, husbands know one another as well. So it becomes much more of a part of the community, which is the thing with the married quarters and the barracks. Everybody's living in almost like a cocoon, so to speak.
Yes, they are. And you'll find that this environment that they are packaged in is supported, and they get all the support from each other. And that comes from when they go mobilised, the families are able to work together and support each other. But for the reservists, they kind of sit right in the middle of all this. They're not actually in a regular environment where they're doing their military service, and their families are annexed off as they are in any community, and they can then find that there isn't that support and support there. This is where
so the key,
support of family and friends. The reservists.
The key
when
thing
they go,
is that the military person who's a regular in the armed forces, their partner can knock on the door, the house next door, and they talk to somebody who knows exactly what they're going through.
Correct.
When you're a reservist, you can be anywhere in the world, and your wife, husband, partner is living in a house with no other military contact, so feeling very isolated. That can cause problems at work and the high levels of stress, all that sort of stuff. It's one of the things that employers need to be aware of. They also need to be aware, I think, of the financial pressures that people can be under, and so where is the money coming in from? Nobody wants to be off sick or suffering from stress or dealing with these various different issues. And that month-long period of holiday is one of the things that, if we are employers, we can allow people to take more holiday during those time periods because of that assimilation that their partner is going through. But the other thing that you were telling me about was that, and earlier you mentioned it, is that every single military qualification has a civilian equivalent as well. So any military service that somebody does and they gain a qualification, that should be easier to transfer across to the civilian environment as well.
Absolutely. We were finding that highly motivated, highly trained individuals with military qualifications had no level of understanding when they came out of the civilian side of things. And the civilian side, they just looked at it and they said, but I don't understand what this means. And so one of the things that is initiatives that's come up is that when they do a military qualification, its civilian equivalent is also taken at the same time. So they bring those back into the workplace as a reservist, but they also have them packaged at the side of them. So when they come out of military service, a civilian employer can look down there and they can see all the qualifications that they've undertaken, and it's civilian.
It's easily understood.
So it's more easily understood. So if they've done a managerial course or a degree or a master's degree, they'll have that equivalent qualification to come into the civilian environment.
Right. Okay. So why do these things succeed and fail when we're talking about employment of people who are either reservists or people coming out of the armed forces? What's the key thing that people need to remember?
Well, this is where it can always fall down, and usually it is because of this lack of awareness and support from each other. And there is a level of trust, and this is where the corporate covenant really does stand out, because as an employer, by showing your support, you give the confidence to service leavers coming in, reservists, that you will not victimise them in some way. And so success is having a partnership. It really is that development between you, the employer, and us, and it's that sharing of an employee. We work on their career together, and if we are in communication with each other because we're sharing that employee, we can also share their training needs. Sometimes it can be we can send them on a course that's just as important for you as a civilian employer. We will pay for it, we will pay them, and your contribution is you release that employee from the workplace to go and do the course.
Mm-hmm. So we're putting the employee first.
Always. We'd like to see that the employees are put first so that we work together to develop them and to support them. And we will support you and give you as much information as possible, but we need to know that you are receptive, you have a point of contact. And who do we contact to do that?
Right. So who do we contact? The reason why they fail is lack of communication?
Absolutely. It's always down to communication and people not understanding what we can do and how we can do it. We've hidden behind our barbed wire fences for a long time. We're out there. We're trying to communicate. We're trying to get back into the communities we belong to. And it's usually down to a lack of communication. If we can build up that rapport through the unit support officer, through myself, through your point of contact in your HR department, we can work together. And it's just making sure that we are aware of each other's needs and that we understand better. And it's always if we have a face and a point of contact so that, there isn't that fear as an employee that there's discrimination in the workplace and that you have a support and your workforce understands that you're supportive of it and so that they don't feel that they could just go out and maybe, bend the rules. You wouldn't allow them to pick on someone if they were pregnant. Why should they be picked on because they're supported and being a reservist? There is a lot of
That's, I think, one of the things that as an HR person is actually one of the key messages is that we need to, as employers, to be telling people, like, if you're in the reserves, if you're a veteran, we understand the situations that you're in. We understand, and we won't discriminate because we understand the situation. And most of these problems come up when we don't actually understand what it means, what it involves, all those sorts of stuff. That's really great. So, as an employer, how do we make it work for us? Make the covenant work for us?
Well, we need to start and develop a partnership. We need to get to know each other. And we need to sit down and go through the covenant. And it's what you feel comfortable as a company offering. We put that 6 categories in there as our starters. These are the areas we have concern for, and this is what we'd like you to support. However, there is in there in the covenant you can add to it. We have colleges, universities saying that they will run courses and support. We have organisations who are offering discounts to service personnel to travel on their organisations or a discount to purchase. And so you can get as much involved or as little. We don't want to be there in your face all the time, coming round, tapping on your door, saying hi again. But if we know what you're interested in, that you're prepared to send a champion, a point of contact, we will send everything and route everything through that individual. They can then filter it for the company and send individuals who they feel appropriate to events or activities. And it's at the end of the day,
getting to know you.
Get to know your local read. We're here. We're just one of 13 of us, but we will come. Every company, when you need us, we will come round. We will sit with whoever at any stage, at any point, and make sure that you're fully aware.
I think also that it's important that we encourage, whilst we've got this partnership on a big level, on a micro level, it's important that we also encourage candidates to tell us that they're in the armed forces and say it's workable. We can work with that commitment that you've made, and also with the veterans. So having that little sign up in reception that says we have signed the covenant, or putting it into job adverts. It's only a couple of words or a little picture. We can actually make that work. We can put all that information in, and the communication with the Army, with the people like yourself, really starts with communicating with the employees as well. But there is something else that I think, as an HR person, when I've been talking to you about today and what we were going to cover, one of the things that I think we do need to make sure employers are aware of is that the civilian part of this, the partner, the husband, wife, partners, children of service personnel, I think we need to be providing them with support. And you've told us a little bit about some of your personal experiences with your wife, finding that she's married to a single bloke coming in. Yeah, I'm sure that didn't last for long, though.
No, I'll soon put in my place.
Right.
But it's important to also for employers who employ partners of reservists and service personnel that when they go on mobilisation, that individual has suddenly become a single parent. And they are probably having all the struggles that they didn't have before that a single parent is going through, and it just hits them all in one go. And so that could be, making sure that they're supporting and making sure that the family's still ticking over and supported. But also they've got the worry of knowing that that individual is out there on the front line and anything could happen to them from being injured to death. And so that is always trying on their minds as well. So sometimes they're a little bit distracted, and having that support from your employer, knowing and that understanding during a mobilisation really, really helps. And this is why I think one of the things you mentioned was, young children, when they're going into school, they need support as well. And if they're having problems and the person's on their own, they're worrying about the children, they're worrying about their partner, they're worrying about how things are going and stress at work, and before you know it, they're not working very well. If they've got that support, that makes all the difference.
There is just one final point, I think, which I wanted to mention, because when all of these people are going to be leaving the military, what skills and knowledge they have, and what all the reserve as well. So if I've got vacancies coming up, if I can work out a way of supporting the covenant and showing that I can provide all the different things that support somebody who's a veteran or a reservist, you could actually help me with recruitment, couldn't you?
I could. We have a free recruitment service, which is the Career Transition Partnership, our acronym CTP. They are specifically contracted to find job opportunities to fit service leavers. So all the service leavers, whether they've done 5 years, 10 years, 24 years service, with the qualifications that they have, coming out into the work market, they offer a free job search for employers and the service leavers and reservists to find them the right job for them. And we will do that search for you, and then they will send in their CVs to you to go through the recruiting process as you would with any other candidate, and be able to see the skills that they can bring to your workplace.
Right, that's great. Thank you very much. I think if I put the slide up with all your contact details there, then I think you're going to get some telephone calls or emails from people to just explain that your email address is a Ministry of Defence email address with Yorkshire and Humber, the YH, Yorkshire and Humber, EMP is employers, SP for support at reserveforces.mod.uk, and people can contact you there. That's really been very interesting, Richard. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
We've covered off an awful lot of stuff. And
good.
I've learned an awful lot.
I'm glad it's been useful, and thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you very much. We can ask if there's anyone who's got any questions out there, then please put them in. It's always nice when people say thank you for these things. Not been going off making a cup of tea, being paying attention. That's really great. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. It's been the first time that we've done one of these. I think we've packed an awful lot of information in there